A teenager wanted for a murder and a violent robbery back in front of a juvenile court judge today after months on the run.
Taymor Mcintyre from Arlington also goes by Tay-K 47 in his rap songs and videos.
We just learned 17-year-old Taymor Mcintyre has been arrested in New Jersey by the U.S. Marshal Service. He's been being held there pending his extradition back here to Texas. Mcintyre, who's from Arlington, is suspected in a capital murder case and had been described as a violent fugitive. He's been the subject of a nationwide manhunt.
I'm in the concrete jungle with the lines.
That shit, nigga, we gon' lick some. Fuck shooting one time, nigga, we gon' rip some. She drinks lemonade. Class ditcher. Call a shooter, yeah, I got a blast, nigga. Call a shooter, got a blast, leave you in the past, nigga.
Taymor Mcintyre, also known as Tay-K, was born on August 16th of 2000 in Long Beach, California. Both of his parents were Crip gang members. It's said that his mom was a part of the Baby Insane Crips out of Long Beach, and his father, Kevin Beverly, would go to prison for an extended period of time when Tay-K was still a small child, leaving his mother to raise him and his older sister Kayla all alone. She would relocate from Long Beach to Las Vegas, Nevada in search of a new life. But she couldn't stay out of the streets, and her unstable lifestyle would cause her to lose custody of her two kids, making Tay-K and his sister property of the Nevada foster care system, wards of the state. They would get passed around to different foster homes with no stability and no guidance. Birthday parties were an afterthought, and Christmas, they didn't even think about it. Tay-K and his sister felt abandoned by their mother, their father, their entire family. His sister would do an interview on Say Cheese TV, speaking about their incredibly tough upbringing and how the only thing that they ever had was each other.
We never stayed with our parents. We kind of stayed in different foster homes. Our dad was incarcerated, you know, and our mom is the one who lost custody of us. Like, we didn't have that at all. It was just me and Taymor.
Man, y'all weak. Y'all weak. Y'all weak.
But although Tay-K and his sister had lived an incredibly difficult life, things would finally start to go their way. When he was 12 years old, his father would be released from prison, and one of the first things that he wanted to do was get custody of his two kids, and that's exactly what he did. He would move his two children from Nevada to Arlington, Texas to start a new life, and it should have been a great time for Tay-K, being reunited with his dad, but it turned out to be a nightmare. There was constant physical punishment in the home. That's the only form of discipline that their father knew. Although Tay-K's sister did admit that her and her brother had behavioral issues due to growing up in unstable environments, and this could have made it difficult for their father trying to raise two kids all alone. And when his frustrations boiled over, he would take it out on his two kids, which created a very volatile home environment. Tay-K had no outlet or a way to express the anger that he had built up inside of him from an unforgiving childhood. He tried different sports and played football as a form of escape. He would also listen to a lot of rap music, being inspired by his favorite artists, Chief Keef, Young Pappy, and Soulja Boy. This made Tay-K want to become a rapper, and he created his own group with his two best friends, Jordan Bell, aka Pimps, and Eric Johnson, aka Santana Sage. They called themselves the Daytona Boys, and throughout 2014, the only thing that they did was create music. And on Christmas Day of that year, they would release their very first song on SoundCloud, titled Drift.
Take it out the cup, pretty eager for action. Whack you with the Peyton, now you look like a catfish. The rims on my NASCAR sparkle the classics. I need a new strap. Show me all the hoes in your phone.
I ain't bring my phone, bitch.
Oh, you ain't even got a phone.
Where's your phone,
This nigga parents fixed.
Their first single didn't get a lot of attention, but it wouldn't deter the Daytona Boys from continuing their movement. They would perform at small venues around the city, even if it was just a few people, because they knew that one day the Daytona Boys were gonna blow up. But even though Tay-K had music as an escape, the physical punishments from his father were getting worse and worse. Things had gotten so bad that Tay-K and his sister planned to run away. They called their mom and told her everything that was happening in their dad's home, and she told them that they could come and live with her. But when they arrived, their mother didn't have a house. She didn't even have an apartment. She was living out of a motel. But after only a few days, she told Tay-K and his sister that they had to leave, once again leaving them to fend for themselves. At only 15 years old, Tay-K was now homeless. He began to stay with different people that he knew in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, going house to house, just trying to survive. He resorted to crime in order to support himself and went head first into the street life. He began to post videos of himself on the internet stacking gang signs. Outside of the love of his gang, Tay-K didn't feel like he had much. But one thing that Tay-K did have was his dreams of becoming a rap star. He continued to create music with the Daytona Boys, grinding in the studio, and they began to make noise on the Dallas-Fort Worth rap scene, especially after Tay-K released his 2 solo singles, Sly Cooper and Biff Zanin.
Creeping around this block like I am Sly Cooper. Bitch, I am no hooper, but you know that I'm a shooter. On my team, but she not in my gang. Clouds full of codeine, I think it's finna rain. She say another case, saying take care of your fuck, but he talking to the beat.
2015 was the year of the Daytona Boys. They were booking more shows and bigger venues, but their rise to the top would come to a quick end. Because on December 31st, 2015, the Daytona Boys had a New Year's Eve performance in Denton, Texas. And after doing their show at the party, they were leaving the venue when they pulled alongside another vehicle at a red light, asking them where was the next party at, and it said they made unwanted advances to the female occupants inside as well. A man who was in the vehicle with the women responded to Tay-K and his friends by saying that he would beat them up. It said that he began to argue with Santana Sage, who was driving the vehicle, and as the light turned from red to green, the back and forth would continue and both cars would try to speed away. Santana Sage would fire 2 shots into the other vehicle, and one of those bullets hit 20-year-old Sarah Mutzglinner in the head, causing her to crash into an electric pole. Santana Sage would be apprehended only a few days later in Arizona. The case became high profile because Santana Sage was a part of the U.S. military, serving in the Marines.
Investigators say the suspect in the murder of a UNT college student was arrested on his way to work at the Marine Corps Air Station in Yuma, Arizona. Eric Johnson is charged with murder for the death of 20-year-old Sarah Mutzglinner. She was shot in the head during a drive-by shooting after a New Year's Eve party in Denton.
Definitely, we won't get emotional yet.
I can tell you what I think. The first thing I think is I've been robbed. I've been robbed of seeing her graduate. I've been robbed of being a grandmother. I've been robbed.
In court, he stated that he never meant to hurt anyone and he only wanted to scare them by shooting over the vehicle, not inside. But Instagram DM messages would leak between Santana Sage and his friends, implicating him in the murder, saying that Sarah was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Despite his lawyer trying to get the charges lowered from murder to manslaughter, the jury wasn't buying it, and ultimately he would be sentenced to 44 years in prison.
Defense attorneys argued Johnson's actions deserved a verdict of manslaughter, but the jury did not agree.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Eric Jamal Johnson, guilty of the offense of murder.
Investigators at Johnson's Fort Worth home on Tuesday before relatives went to a Marine recruiting office. Those who know Johnson's family say the news of his arrest is shocking.
Never have any problems over there. I feel sorry for his mom. Very nice lady.
Tay-K and Pimps were both identified as occupants in the vehicle, but neither one of them would face charges, and they both got off scot-free. Tay-K could have taken this blessing as an opportunity to really focus on music and not let anything deter that dream. He was 15 years old and finally starting to get some notoriety, but him and his best friend Pimps would crash out in dramatic fashion by making a decision that would not only change the course of Tay-K's rap career, it would change his life forever.
I recorded my first song.
That don't matter, bro.
Nigga, you just been there, nigga.
Who the one that was there when I recorded my first song? You. Who was I start rapping with, nigga? You're recording this. I love you, bro. I love you, bro. You my nigga, I swear to God.
On July 26, 2016, a robbery was being masterminded by an unidentified 16-year-old girl that included a total of 7 people involved. She wanted Tay-K and his guys to rob her boyfriend, Zachary Belote, who lived in a home on the 1500 block of Aspen Court in Mansfield, Texas. It was a known drug spot, and the police had received numerous calls to the address. They felt like it would be an easy robbery due to all the activity that goes on there. It would be hard to pinpoint exactly who's responsible. The plan was for the unidentified woman and a few of her friends to go over to the home of Zachary Belote and hang out with him, drinking, smoking, getting him to relax. And when the time was right, she would text Tay-K, letting him know it was on. They had planned to do the robbery during the day, but when they went to the home, it was too many people around. The timing was bad, so they had to wait until nightfall. And when they returned, the only people who were there was Zachary Belote and his roommate, Ethan Walker, who was playing video games with his girlfriend. But as the night went on, Zachary started to notice that the girls were acting weird. They were pacing back and forth, constantly going to the bathroom, constantly asking for water. But they were really sneaking off texting the guys, setting up the robbery. And when the unidentified teen, who was the mastermind, felt the time was right, she texted Tay-K, hit a lick, it's a go. According to Zachary Belote, this is when Tay-K and the guys bust in wearing black masks, brandishing weapons, telling them to give up the money and the drugs. It's said that Tay-K flipped over a couch, saying where to work at. They kept telling them that they didn't have any money or drugs in the home. They ransacked the house, but after they realized that they weren't going to get anything, it turned deadly. Zachary Belote stated that the man who was holding him hostage went from holding the weapon with one hand to 2 hands, as if he was contemplating squeezing the trigger. He shot Zachary multiple times, but he was able to survive. His friend Ethan Walker would also be shot, losing his life at only 21 years old, being taken away from his young daughter. It didn't take the police too long to figure out who was responsible for the crime, and all 7 people would be arrested, charged with capital murder.
Shows a 16-year-old Taymor Mcintyre in a small room with police, uncomfortable, wiping his eyes at times, and finally admitting to investigators he played a role in a home invasion and murder in Mansfield.
I seen 4 people come in with guns and masks and hoodies, and then they came straight into my room. Well, everybody left the room, and then one guy was at the front of my room in the doorway, and I was right in front of the bed, like pretty much point blank range. And he sat there and hesitated for about 2 minutes with one hand, and when he grabbed it with 2 hands, that's when I knew he was gonna pull the trigger.
At first, he came around the corner and he said, "Get on the ground." Okay. I think he said it 2 or 3 times. Me and Ethan both responded and said, "There's nothing here." Ethan had his hands up and he got shot in the stomach.
Tay-K and his best friend Pimps would both be released on house arrest, awaiting the murder trial. They were both still minors, and the judge decided, instead of making them stay in jail until their murder trials concluded, he would let them be at home with their families. For the next 8 months, Tay-K was on house arrest, but he continued to create music, growing his fan base and his following on the internet. But on March 26, 2017, Tay-K would send out a tweet that would set the internet on fire and captivate the public's attention. He decided to cut off his ankle monitor and go on the run, marking the beginning of the race. Tay-K was the hot topic on multiple major platforms like DJ Vlad, College Kid, and DJ Academics.
Check it out now, man. Tay-K, man. Listen.
What a Tay-K updates, man.
Why you ain't talking about Tay-K, man?
Oh, you should do a story about him. My little homies, hey, Tay-K 47. I'm just reading up on him. I'm trying to see where it's gonna go.
Tay-K, born Taymor Mcintyre, jumped bail after being charged with capital murder and went on the run.
If we switch gears a little bit, you have the Tay-K case.
The more Tay-K's story was told and talked about, the more views it got on social media. But when he went on the run, he wasn't alone. He linked up with his best friend Pimps, who had also cut off his ankle monitor. Together, they fled to San Antonio, where they would get into even more trouble. On April 23, 2017, Tay-K would set up a meeting with a young photographer and cameraman named Mark Anthony Saldivar. They would meet up in the parking lot of a San Antonio Chick-fil-A, but when he arrived, Tay-K and his guys tried to rob him and take his equipment. He began to scream for help, and out of desperation, he jumped on the hood of their vehicle and began to stomp on the windshield because they were trying to steal his equipment. Tay-K stopped the car, exited the vehicle, and shot him one time as he stood on the hood, leaving 23-year-old Mark Saldivar to pass away on the street. After the murder, Tay-K would head back to Arlington to hide out, but he couldn't stay out of trouble because on the morning of May 25th, 2017, a 65-year-old man named Skip Pepe was doing his morning walk through Cravens Park when he said that Tay-K approached him and demanded his wallet. When he refused, Tay-K punched him multiple times in the face until he was unconscious. By this time, Tay-K and fellow Daytona boy Pimps had went their separate ways, trying to avoid law enforcement. But Pimp's luck would run out fast, and he was apprehended by U.S. Marshals. It's said that when he was in custody, they offered him a 20-year plea in exchange for giving up Tay-K, but he refused, and they gave him 30 years. After his friend was caught, Tay-K would leave Texas completely. He headed to Elizabeth, New Jersey, where he would hide out with friends and continue to create music, also frequently uploading to social media despite being on the run. And it's said that him going to New Jersey wasn't a coincidence, because during the rise of his fame, Tay-K signed a record deal with an independent label called 88 Classic, and their headquarters wasn't too far away from Elizabeth, New Jersey, and they actually aren't even an independent label. They're a subdivision of RCA, who's owned by Sony. Some people believed that the independent label was just a front and a way for Sony to profit off of one of their artists who was on the run for multiple capital murders without facing media scrutiny. And the record company's profits were about to skyrocket because while he was on the run, he created the theme song for the Free Tay-K movement with the song called The Race, and it would get millions of views on YouTube.
But I ain't beat that case, bitch, I did the race. I'm gon' shoot, bitch, without a debate. I'm gon' shoot, you can see it in my face.
The video has more than 2 million views. In his video for The Race, Tay-K 47 raps about shooting someone, trying to beat the case, and then when he can't, running.
And to take his already viral internet hit to the next level, he recorded a music video while on the run, where he could be seen standing next to his own wanted posters, daring law enforcement to come and get him. But on June 30th, 2017, Tay-K's race would finally come to an end after he was arrested near Newark Avenue in Jersey City. He would be transferred back to Texas, where he would await trial for 2 capital murders. 2 of the women who were a part of the Mansfield, Texas robbery, Megan Halt and Ariana Barat, were both given 20-year sentences in exchange for giving up Tay-K. His male co-defendants would also receive long prison terms. Sean Robinson would be sentenced to 40 years for his role in the robbery, and Letharian Merritt, he would receive life for his role as the primary trigger man. And the unidentified woman, who was said to have masterminded the whole robbery, would ultimately receive 10 years probation. She told the jury that she was a victim of trafficking and that she was forced to do the robbery. Tay-K would remain behind bars, waiting for his day in court, and despite the odds being stacked against him, he remained optimistic that he would beat all the charges and once again be a free man, able to resume his career as a rap star. A few weeks after being locked up, on July 29, 2017, he released his debut mixtape called Santana World. that was dedicated to his friend Eric Johnson, who was already serving 44 years for the murder of University of North Texas student Sarah Mutzglenner. Even behind bars, Tay-K and his story garnered a lot of media attention, and he was still going viral for music as well. In 2018, he linked up with Adam 22 when he created No Jumper Records and did a song with Block Boy JB called Hard.
School was very hard, bitch, I'm very hard. Take a very hard, take a fairly chop up with a blade.
Someone wants to know, what will you do when you get out? Yeah.
I mean, shit, like, go crazy. What you mean? I'm definitely dropping all the fire I've been writing in here as soon as I get out. I'm good. That's looking good too, you know. All the coming home situation and shit. I know a lot of people want to know about that and shit. A lot of people think it's over and shit. I'm hood. It's not my case on appeal right now, so that's looking good, you know.
But unfortunately for Tay-K, the evidence against him was overwhelming, and the testimony of his co-defendants was too much to overcome. There were reports that he could be facing the death penalty, but that was taken away as an option due to his young age. And when questioned in court about why he went on the run, he said it's because he took a whole bunch of pills and was hearing voices in his head, so he wasn't in his right mind. Things weren't looking too good for Tay-K in court. And part of the reason that he signed the record deal that he did is so he could have money for legal fees. He signed a deal for $600,000, but the families of Mark Anthony Saldivar and Ethan Walker would file a civil suit against him for $1 million, leaving him broke. Tay-K would take to social media to voice his frustrations with his management and his record company, feeling like they left him behind bars with no support. Despite his lawyer arguing that his charges should be lowered due to his young age, the Texas justice system wasn't trying to hear it, and on July 23, 2019, Tay-K would be sentenced and learn his fate.
A teen rapper's hit song was used as evidence against him in a murder trial in Fort Worth. Tay-K's song, The Race, climbed the charts 2 years ago, but now prosecutors are hoping it helps send him away for a long time.
The girls planned this. They set it up, and the boys were supposed to come in and hold everybody off, and Tay-K had a bag. It was going to get the money and the drugs from under the couch and run back out.
McIntyre's defense team, which helped him avoid a life sentence, argued that though the song was offensive, it was art. They were pushing for nothing longer than a 20-year deal other teens received in the case, but the jury saw it differently.
After receiving his 55-year prison sentence, Tay-K has been having a tough time behind bars. He's been caught with contraband on numerous occasions, and he allegedly threatened a guard. He was caught trying to start his own gang as well, called the Rugrats. They found his blueprint, the rules for the gang, and his future plans. Images would surface online of Tay-K being restrained by multiple guards. He would be placed in solitary confinement, 23-hour-a-day lockdown with only 1 hour out of his cell, in a very small room with very limited human contact. Tay-K would continue to make music history while in jail by becoming the first artist with a platinum single, but never able to perform it live in front of fans. He's made multiple social media posts about his time behind bars and how he's mistreated, and he feels that if he was a 16-year-old white girl like his co-defendant, that he too would have only gotten 10 years probation instead of 55 years, and he has to serve a minimum of 27 before he's eligible for parole. But that's not the end for Tay-K and his legal troubles. The 55-year sentence that he received was for his role in a Mansfield, Texas robbery that resulted in Ethan Walker losing his life. He still has to stand trial for the capital murder of Mark Anthony Saldivar, who was killed in a San Antonio Chick-fil-A parking lot in April of 2017. He's currently being held in Bexar County Jail in San Antonio, awaiting trial. If he's found guilty of this murder, it would completely close the door on Tay-K ever seeing the light of freedom again. In January of 2023, he tweeted out about just needing one opportunity at being an adult and the chance to live a normal life. Tay-K's childhood was not only unstable, it was unfair. From the moment that he was born, the odds were stacked against him, and he never received the love and guidance that a child needs in order to maximize their chances of success in life. No child should have to endure the things that him and his sister went through. But on the other side, there's people who also came up in poverty-stricken situations with the odds stacked against them, but they found a way to make it out without committing crimes or taking the lives of others. Everyone has to make choices in their life, and sometimes you're lucky and blessed enough to be able to go back and correct a mistake or get a second chance. But more times than not, you're forced to live with that choice and that mistake for the rest of your life. And that's what happened in the sad and tragic story of Taymor Mcintyre, Tay-K.